Welcome to another episode of Cal State Dominguez Hills Global DH program. This is our fifth podcast. Today we are so fortunate, so lucky to have President Parham as our guest. President Parham, welcome to the program. We're so honored, so happy to have you here. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Professor Saleh, you and I have traveled not only the nation but the globe in several places. So always a pleasure to be here and talk with you about that and just reconnect.
And I know you are really the one of the, if not the strongest advocate for international program. Under your leadership, we really built it. When you came in, just as an example, our students, our total number for internationals was less than 150, very small. Now it's building. It's like 4 or 5 times more than that. And all of that, thank you to your efforts. Let me ask you a little bit about what's happening on campus. A lot of things are happening on campus. You have a new building, new programs. Can you talk a little bit about those things?
So first, I should say that when I first arrived, I was clear, I think, with you and others that I thought our international footprint was too small.
Yes.
And that for a regional comprehensive university that had so much to give and so many rich, intellectual assets and cultural assets, that not to be able to give some of these away to the world and have them really take advantage of it, I think was a missed opportunity. But I was also acutely aware, my opinion, that I wasn't sure that our campus was prepared to receive a much larger cohort of international students because of our infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about living, learning communities. I'm talking about special places and infrastructure to support their academic needs. I'm talking about connections to the community. But as we've gone ahead and tried to do some of that work, we've put some of those things in place that now make it an ideal time, better than an ideal time, for international students to take advantage of what it is that we have. And so I'm excited about what the future represents and where that goes. For example, I didn't think we had sufficient residence halls. Mm-hmm. We call them living, learning communities. They aren't just places you lay your head at night, but these are places where the academic core penetrates that space so that we have professors and other folk providing instructional activity, both academic and co-curricular, in those, residence living communities. When I arrived, we had, 647 bed spaces. We added 506 to give us 1153. And now we have a new project that'll be done this next year where we're building just a shade under 300 more bed spaces. So we'll have close to 1,500 bed spaces on campus, which is a sizable footprint different than the 647 that we had when we first arrived. So excited about that.
That's wonderful. There are a couple other things with the well-being of students.
Sure. Yeah. So a second element of that I thought was a dining commons. Mm-hmm. So we've gotten some dollars to put in a dining commons that is just going to be a first-class place. So it'll have a facility to specialize in the culinary delights that really represent different corners of the world and the globe, so that students, particularly from international destinations, should see themselves reflected even within the culinary options that they'll be able to take advantage of. But also, I believe every moment is a teaching moment. And so we ought to be able to use food to instruct. We ought to be able to use food to really share with folk about, what is important about this particular culinary delicacy in the context of both the present as well as the historical cultural context. So that part will be important. We've also got a brand new health, wellness, and recreation center that is coming, which I think is just going to be a game changer for the campus. So not only does it provide opportunities to pay better attention to your health, physical fitness, but we're also going to satellite in there medical services. We're going to satellite psychological services, and we're also going to satellite nutrition services, so that we're building into that facility state-of-the-art cameras that will then beam culinary instruction about how to cook and how to, create appetizing meals to students that will be broadcast both in the student center as well as into the residence halls and the living and learning communities. So you put all that together, I think it adds to the ambiance that already existed, from academic majors to faculty who are inclined to do that, even the connections we have to the community. Yeah. You'll recall, in my first couple of years, I had outreach to Akira Muto, who was the Consul General of Japan in Los Angeles. We now have outreach to Consul General Sone as he took Muto's place. But more importantly, we were together to create a partnership where we had, I think, 11 or 13 Japanese corporations that are now connected to us to provide internships and opportunities for our students to be able to grow into. So when you think about international students coming and then wanting to connect up both with those internship possibilities as well as those career opportunities that exist in those corporations, those are examples of ways in which we are positioned now that we weren't positioned 5-6 years ago. And so I think the time is right for students to be able to be here and take advantage of what we're doing.
Couldn't agree more. Before we move to those international efforts that you do and you do well, talk a little bit about the other building, the environment programs that we have on campus, the awards that the university won. And I'm asking this because one of the field that is these days in great demand, environmental studies. The College of Natural and Behavioral Science is launching, or has approved a program to launch a bachelor's degree of science in environmental studies. The graduate program has been a very successful program, attracting a lot of students from all over. Part of the success of this program, as it is initiated now, is the opportunity that gives to students to do interns on campus, volunteering in the farms or working with the people in charge of the environment. The other building is that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So what's important about each of those things is our footprint in those spaces has only increased to supplement what it is we do in a whole host of academic majors. So as you know, and our students should know, we have 6 colleges: Arts and Humanities, College of Business Administration and Public Policy. We have the College of Education, that, by the way, trains the third most teachers who teach in LA Unified and in the surrounding communities of the campus. We have the College of Natural and Behavioral Sciences, which we're talking about, the College of Health, Human Services, and Nursing, and a College of Continuing and Professional Education. Within those 6 spaces, minus the continuing ed, which is more auxiliary, we have 82 majors. We have 56 undergrad, 26 grad master's programs, and we've added 2 doctoral programs in that space, with a third on the way that has already been approved, so we're waiting to roll it out in nursing. So we've got one in occupational therapy and a second one in education. So the third in the Doctor of Nursing Practice will be phenomenal to have doctorate degrees in that. But in terms of students and the environment and sustainability, we happen to be a place that cares a lot about our carbon footprint. We happen to be a place that cares a lot about sustainability. And so we have tremendous faculty and tremendous administrative staff who are connected to us in ways that are not only teaching and theorizing about the work, but actually doing the work. Ellie Perry, our sustainability guru, is leading the state and is known as one of the best in the state and award-winning, in fact, in being able to do some of that work that impacts what happens in the environment. We've got Kenny Perry, for example, who's an administrator in facilities, but who is winning an award in environmental science relative to intelligent buildings. He just won a Diggy Award this year for intelligent buildings and how we're navigating that particular space. We've got academic majors in environmental sciences, both at the undergrad and graduate level, who are out there doing the work on everything from environmental pollution to environmental sciences to air to. I mean, it's phenomenal what folk are doing with that. And so for anybody who has interest in wanting to be involved in some of that, who might be thinking about agriculture, who might be thinking about, the pollution things, that whole spectrum that spans, from A to Z. All those opportunities exist here on the campus, particularly because we have not only the intellectual resources, but the ecosystem that exists here in Southern California allows us to be able to study and to do that particular work. So it's something we certainly want to invite a lot of our international partners to come take advantage of if they have interest in that.
Which is amazing. And speaking of people involved in the program, you have faculty also involved in the program. Last year, we had faculty was able to secure 10 scholarship or supported 10 students, international students, and a grant that he wrote. And they all participated and are enrolled in the program. And one of the attractions to this program is that what the professor does is that he connects them with network. It does a lot of networking, and the university put them in touch, right places with the resources that university has. Those are all wonderful things.
Yeah.
I don't mean to shift gears, but let's go back to, you mentioned Japan. Still remember the footprint, and our goal is to increase the footprint. And you were so instrumental of that. We did several trips, but one trip that is sort of the model for how we are operating is the trip that we did to Japan and Korea. You mentioned the relationship that you have, or the university has, with the Japanese consul, and it is now institutionalized. That's not just between the university and the consulate, but also at the student-faculty level.
Right.
So we have universities from Japan that come here. We have fairs here where the students are involved. And faculty, we have a professor who created a club, the American Japanese students.
That's the club, right? Exactly right.
Yeah, and what they do, it's a really nice environment. Well, she comes to the orientation the first day of class, and introduce herself, and then she connect them with the Americans. So we did that, the Japanese did that, and then the Koreans said, why not? We'll do it also. So we have another Korean professor who is doing that. Those efforts are really amazing and are helpful and helped us.
And those are the co-curricular learning opportunities I was speaking about earlier that you and I know very well. Because part of what a student will learn in their 4 years of college life happen outside of the classroom.
Yeah.
And so that co-curricular learning is essential, and having those resources and opportunities to expose students to is really important. I'm also reminded as we sit here that not only have the trips to both Japan and Korea been important, but also the trips to Africa that some of our students take. And in fact, we had an exchange where we entertained a whole cohort of students who came from African countries.
Yes.
Some of which who were involved in wanting to know about environmental sciences and those things, but they were everywhere from digital and media arts to public administration to
You're talking about the Mandela Initiative.
The Mandela Initiative, exactly right.
Yeah.
So CSUDH is developing much more of a global footprint in those places, which is really my dream about wanting us to do that. But while we're now getting past the note of just touching people, we're now really engaging them, and they're embracing us. And so the level of exchange and the synergy, the 1 and 1 equals 3 now, is really just quite telling. And I'm very, very proud of that.
One of the impact of those sort of those partnerships we had in Japan and Korea and Asia is what you just said. It's now replicated also in Africa. And Africa is very, very important. During the pandemic, we launched the International Virtual Exchange Learning Program, and was a way of reducing the digital gap by offering African students the opportunities to sit in a classroom or engage in activities about development in digital areas or in computers. Just imagine the theory behind it is that today, when you travel abroad, usually it's well-to-do, people who have scholarships. And when those individuals go back, they get sort of an advantage in being hired at a much expensive salaries and things like that. But what if you offer the same opportunities to the African students through with somebody who is in Africa. So those are the ideas. I want you to talk to us a little bit about the changes in the field, in the industries. We're shifting so much toward artificial intelligence, digitalization, and we mention Africa because the goal of the university is its mission is social justice.
Right.
When we look at the continent of Africa, that's a huge effort, or it will be a mission that one should sort of promote and seek to achieve.
So in the midst of searching for the right fit for a university, we're not just looking at reputation.
Yeah.
We have more accreditations on this campus now than we've ever had in the history of the campus.
Mm.
We're not just looking for the infrastructure that's able to support a student's academic and co-curricular learning, which has been substantially improved. But we're also looking for the kind of intellectual and emotional cultural ambiance that exists in the climate of a campus. And so the social justice roots you were talking about earlier are part and parcel of what Dominguez Hills has always been a part of since its inception. A lot of people don't know we are part of a Cal State system, one of 22 campuses now in the CSU. It's the largest system of public higher education in America. So we take a backseat to nobody in that respect, 470,000, 75,000 students a year. But there's nobody that has 91% students of color. Mm-hmm. There's no one whose campus really was founded in 1960 in a different location up in Palos Verdes and Rolling Hills Estates. That when they opened the first classes in 63, 64, 64, 65, that summer of 65 is when the Watts Rebellion occurred. And so when the then governor of California, Edmund G. Brown, came down to the region, met with some of the city fathers, the Gil Smiths of the world and others, what they talked about, and the governor in particular said, that we need to create a gateway and a door of opportunity for the residents of the urban core of South Central Los Angeles, which at that point was predominantly black. Now it's a mix of black and Latino. So you have a campus now that's been repositioned into the Dominguez Hills Ranch, where in this place we call the city of Carson in LA County, it is about as diverse a multicultural mecca as you can find. We have South Central LA to the north, Compton to the east, North Long Beach to the southwest, and the South Bay to the immediate west and a little bit north. So we have really a multicultural mecca there with both lots of international students who need to take advantage of that as well. So when we talk about students who want to really engage in that social justice work, we pride ourselves on not just being in the community, which some institutions are. We are of the community. We don't build borders and walls around our campus to keep people out and you got a screen. This is an open public university, but we are connected to the community in ways. So we have relationships, right, for these African students we're talking about with the Los Angeles Urban League. We are connected to the Los Angeles Sentinel, which is the largest black newspaper almost in the country. We're connected to people like the Brotherhood Crusade, who does a lot of work around youth and community empowerment of folk. You know, we're connected to these entities, right, that exist within the campus. We're connected to the Taste of Soul, KJLH radio station owned by the famed iconic Stevie Wonder, holds their empowerment summit on this campus every year.
Yeah.
The state legislators, these are the assembly people and Senate folk, as well as our Secretary of State, have what's called the California Legislative Black Caucus, CLBC. That caucus holds what is called the AALT, African American Leaders of Tomorrow, on this campus every summer. So those legislators take students from each of their districts across the state, 5 or 10, and then they recruit them, select them, and then send them down here during the summer. And they have a residential summer institute all summer long that meets with folk here. We have the first ever Black women's think tank, led by Kelly Todd Grissom, made possible by a grant through the state, as well as with the help of the Legislative Black Caucus, that is anchored here on the Dominguez Hills campus. We also have the Dimely Institute. What a gym that is. For those who don't know, Mervyn Dimely is the only Afro-Caribbean black man to be lieutenant governor in the state of California. In fact, he's the only lieutenant governor that I know that has a bust on the statue in the Capitol that I, was there on the day that they helped to dedicate it. And I was honored to speak with it at the event. But more importantly, Dimely was a state assembly member, state senate, lieutenant governor, went to Congress, and then after his congressional term, came back and finished his term in the assembly. So he's now passed on and walks with the ancestors, but that Dimely Institute that is in his name is actually on this campus. So that Dimely Institute is at once a think tank. It is an institute that chronicles the achievements of African-American legislators. It is a place that is looking for career projections so that we're trying to help students who want to get involved in civic engagement and public policy. We also have the Dimely Fellows program. And so we recruit students on campus as well as from our local community colleges and even out of high school to be the Dimely Fellows who are funded. They also put on a festival and a jazz concert that's there, as well as bring in a speaker series where we have some of the most phenomenal speakers, Angela Davis and Cornel West and Eddie Glaude and Michael Eric Dyson and, just a whole host of people, Karen Bass, to join with our Presidential Distinguished Lecture Series. It is a mecca of intellectual talent and resource that all combined make it real evident that there is a legitimate, authentic cultural comfort zone, right, on this campus. And so if you compare this campus to others that I would describe as sometimes more of a sea of cultural sterility, there's every reason to understand why international students from the diaspora ought to be thinking about coming to Cal State University, Dominguez Hills.
And also, you may add the mayors that graduated from this campus.
People don't know that too. I thank you for reminding me about that. So people say, well, where do these political leaders come from? One of the most prominent mayors in the city of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, former congresswoman, is a Dominguez Hills grad. Yes. The mayor of Long Beach, the city, right, which is one of the largest cities in the state of California and one of the biggest ports. Rex Richardson comes from Long Beach. We're in the city of Carson, right? So Carson Mayor Lula Davis Holmes, right, is a Dominguez Hills grad, as is Rex Richardson from Long Beach, right? So he's in Long Beach, but he comes from Dominguez Hills as a student. The mayor of Compton and Emma Sharif, the mayor of Compton is a Dominguez Hills grad. Alex Vargas in Torrance is a Dominguez Hills grad. Former State Senator Steve Bradford is a Dominguez Hills grad. Assemblywoman Tina McKenna is a Dominguez Hills grad. I mean, they're everywhere.
Sonashi.
Right. Yeah. And so when you look at where the diverse political leaders are coming from, it's no surprise that they come out of, this particular campus on this intellectual ambiance that we call the Toro Nation or Cal State University, Dominguez Hills.
And what's very interesting, these are political connections, if you want, and it translates into programs and so on and so forth.
And they're here speaking on campus. When Assemblymember Mike Gibson wants to do community forums on everything from homelessness to gun violence. They hold them here on this campus. Areva Martin, who runs the Special Needs Network, when they want to do backpack giveaways to students to start the year, they do them on this campus. When they have them, we're connected to people in those ways that it's just important.
During election, this campus moderates the debates among candidates.
Moderate debates among candidates. We have a voting center that's here on campus. So there is no voter suppression in places like this. We are a social justice campus.
If you take it a step further, it is not just politics or this connection that we have with the community, but it's also in the area of industries, the connection that we have with companies, and it's paying off. For the last 3 years, for example, our international students' employability, or who are employed in STEM by themselves, is around 95%.
95% is what I hear.
It has been consistent, and it speaks volume to the kind of partnership reputation that we have among companies. It's more about giving the opportunity to our students. The moment they know you're from Dominguez Hills, we trust you. Right. Because there is a history, good record. So that, and we see around here, you have a lot of companies surrounding us, and it's Toyota has a major part.
They're a major sponsor and a footprint. And Toyota company, as a matter of fact, if we can pick on them for a minute, not only is one of those companies that we have a relationship with, and it precedes me by a lot of years, but it's been strengthened. But they just donated money to build our Center for Innovation in STEM Education that Kamal Hamden runs, and Dr. Hamden is doing phenomenal work there. But Toyota has helped us, along with Crest, to develop our Toyota Mobility Challenge, where we had a lot of students on campus who are transportation insecure. We have a grant from Toyota to bring in these new electric cars. We have 11 now. We'll have 30 next year. We'll have 50 when the program is done. And we're collaborating with the county to build this transportation infrastructure, along with Southern California Edison, the energy company. And what Toyota has done is found a way to get us these cars on the grant so that now students can check out these cars. And instead of spending dollars at one of these rideshare companies, $15 to go to the grocery store and back, $15 to go to a doctor's appointment and back, or to go visit a friend, or something for kids who are mobility challenged. They can now rent one of these vehicles for $4 an hour. And some of these even have drivers who will drive students who don't drive and don't have driver's licenses to get to where they want to go. That's much more economical and affordable. But that's what a social justice campus does. It recognizes that social justice is not about just the politics. It's also about the food insecurity. We've got our own urban garden. Social justice is about transportation insecurity. We now have these kind of programs in place. Social justice is about economic empowerment, which is why we put on these spaces. We have an incubation center on campus for innovation and an incubator that is doing some phenomenal work. All of that is connected to social justice in a way that is part and parcel of why we love this campus so much. But certainly something students should be taking advantage of.
It's amazing. And the private-public partnership, especially in Toyota, we have the center, the Kamal's group.
Center for Innovation and STEM
Center
Education.
for Innovation, where they have programs deep in the community, in high schools, middle schools. And it is now, and a lot of international students are employed. A driver from here take them to their work and then pick them up. So it's another contribution to that could be included in that partnership between the private and the public sector.
And what's fascinating about that last piece, not only do we have the Center for Innovation and STEM Education in our science building on campus, our science and innovation building, but one of the most fabulous things you've seen are the mobile fabrication labs. So we have 5 or 6 of those pulled by Toyota trucks, who then go out to school. So we're training the next generation of STEM learners. So a lot of these international students have an opportunity to be connected to and employed by Dr. Hamden and his team, who are going out and really trying to share and spread the wealth in not just STEM, but STEAM, right? And including the arts, but helping to excite kids about learning in that particular way. And that's another phenomenal element, but certainly part and parcel of what it is we're trying to do on a campus that prides itself on social justice. It's
amazing. Other areas that, how do you see this university in this transition to artificial intelligence? When we do recruitment and parents ask us our opinion what their kid or student should study, I always say, think in terms 4 years from now or 5 years from now, and think about passion. What are some of the unique things that you think this university will excel in the future?
You know, it's interesting because higher ed's relationship to artificial intelligence is just beginning to be born, I think, and realized, partly because in the last couple of years when AI became a thing that everybody was talking about, a lot of what had gone on is people were looking at the downsides of AI. Could students use it to write a paper for them and not really compete on the assignment? So there was a level of intellectual dishonesty. Could someone use it to write a letter or something that they didn't author as an academic, but the paper wrote, the artificial intelligence kind of wrote it. And I think that's the half empty glass mentality that we try not to support here at Dominguez Hills. The half full glass is to look at the way AI as a tool can enhance what it is we do. So we hosted, for example, you remember a year ago, December, a national forum on AI, where we had visitors from around the country, connections to Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and we had some of our own graduate students showcase their work and how AI was enhancing their own innovations around medical procedures, and working particularly with folk who might have had cancer or some other kind of surgical intervention need, and show how AI could enhance and improve the accuracy of that particular clinician to be able to work with that patient to improve that surgical outcome. And my jaw just dropped when I saw the students present on that, and I went, wow. So the more people discover, the more people are recognizing the challenges we have and the cautions they have to employ, and the guardrails they have to put around it, but are also discovering the tremendous uses and benefits they can from embracing AI. And I think our international students certainly would be smart to take advantage of that as well. And now you ought to think about being at Dominguez Hills.
And there is a lot of good things that are happening with that kind of work. Recently, a major student had her paper published, and this is a computer science student. And part of it is this environment where they are, where they could help her.
Exactly right.
So that's a little bit of the future. Another point that maybe you want to talk to us about it. We had the Olympics in '84 on this campus.
Yes.
We are going to have some of the activities of the next Olympic. Can you tell us a little bit about that,
Sure.
the role that we play?
The next Summer Olympic Games will be held in 28, and they'll be held in the greater Los Angeles area. So a number of institutions, not all, but a number of them, will be connected to the LA 28 initiative, and our Cal State University Dominguez Hills is one of them. And in fact, we will be hosting what I think are 5 sports on the campus. So we'll have, I think, some tennis, rugby, field hockey. We have the velodrome for the bicycling that is on campus. And then we've just added, because they've asked us to add it, archery.
Okay.
And so those 5 games will be here. We'll also be using some of our residence halls, in fact, to lease them out to LA 28 for them to house some of the staff and other things who will be connected to that. And some of the buses that they're hoping to use to transport people around will be housed on campus as well. So this campus is connected to LA 28 in ways in which lots of folk aren't. There'll also be employment opportunities for folk at LA 28, a chance to witness history at LA 28. And right after the regular Olympic Games are over, the Paralympic Games are going to be here as well. So you're looking at a week or 2 later, replicating a lot of what we've done for the Paralympians. It's just going to be really fabulous about what's going on. So I'm excited about that. And any student coming from an international space would want to be a part of bearing witness to what's going on here at Dominguez Hills.
So it is really difficult for me to ask you this question, especially...
That's right. We like difficult.
Yeah. We've been blessed by your leadership for the last how many years? And you decided to leave us for good reasons. There is no one who served the program, the international program of this university as well as you did and do. But I wonder, will you still be connected to Dominguez Hills? Will you be still in your plan traveling with and doing the things that you do well, representing the CSU, all of that?
So what we're talking about is my pending retirement.
Exactly.
So I try not to look at, but your president has been involved in higher education, what'll be 44 years. So I started out as a young assistant professor at the University of Pennsylvania. Left there when I got recruited back to the University of California at Irvine. Thought I'd stay 5 years and spent 33, and now I'm doing something I never planned on doing, which is serving as a university president, and I've loved every minute of it. You and I know I salivated at the thought of coming to work every day on behalf of elevating this campus and this community. But I thought that nearly 8 years was enough, that it's time for me to step back and take a look at what we promised to do. I promised to transform the campus. I promised to try to put a dent and improve student success. I promised to look at the old and create a new strategic plan. I promised to change the reputation of the campus to the external community, both locally, regionally, and nationally and internationally. And I promised, if I was any good at what I do, to unlock what I call the shackles of conceptual incarceration that kept this campus locked in the way things had always been before I arrived, rather than the way things might be if we just dreamed about what was possible and stopped settling for what was predictable. So if you look at the campus now and what it looks like, with its curriculum, with its infrastructure, with its reputation, with its ambiance and honors and accolades that it's getting from national surveys, et cetera, it's a very different place. But it would be a mistake for anybody to believe that because the president was leaving and retiring, that somehow all of this stuff is going away. It isn't. It is only going to enhance. Our international students will understand that much like the great ancestors when they built the pyramids, they didn't build them all in one dynasty. When they had a lot of the temples and the tombs, they didn't get built all in one administration. The ancestors built for eternity. And in building for eternity, they had a simple formula. It was excellent preparation and construction on one hand, and an aspiration to harmonize with divine intent on the other. What I've tried to do in my administration is have excellent preparation and construction and produce excellence around everything that we've touched, which is what you now see showcased, but also to harmonize with divine intent to make sure that we were supporting the dignity and humanity of every member of the human family who was now here on this campus and connected to us in authentic ways. So we've been able to do that. So that's not going to change because the personality comes and goes. Personalities come and go, but the principles of excellence, the principles of diversity, the principles of social justice, the principles of connectedness authentically to people. We have a saying in the library that I coined the first year where I said, what would it be like to walk around the campus instead of an institution somewhere else in America or around the world that says, take a look to your right or left, one of y'all ain't gonna be here in 4 years. Yeah. To come to a university where people are looking you in your eye and they say, good day, Toro citizen. I respect your humanity and I bear witness to your success. And everybody greets each other in that particular way. That says something about the spirit and the ambiance of the place that I hope does not dissipate because the president has taken his leave. Hopefully we're only going to enhance that. Once you have had a taste of excellence, once you've had a taste of greatness, once you've had a taste of new buildings and infrastructure, it's kind of like we ain't never going back.
I know the other thing you said, and maybe one of the very first few speeches you made when you got here was owning the success of the students. Right. Meaning that when they came here, if they don't do well in certain areas, it is our roles as faculty and administration staff to ensure that they will be successful.
Own success, not rent success. That's exactly what I said.
That is exactly. And that is today is translated into the success centers that we have on campus. You have each college today has an advising center where
we blew up that model so that we created not just a centralized advising model, but we spread them out and relocated them to the different colleges so that we have college-based advising centers and student success centers that are embedded in the colleges, not just a centralized hub. Exactly right.
Just for our audience, I heard you several times talking about the success that these centers have sort of contributed to increase retention and
Well, and the work that we've done, it took us a year to think about it. Some folks to think about what are we doing, trying different things out, taking a few risks. But right now, what our latest data shows is our students haven't just jumped a point or two.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they jumped 8 points. Last year, they jumped 6.5 points. That's 14.5 points in 2 years in our retention numbers that we're excited about. So we've kind of figured out what's the secret sauce to be able to get this done. And we think we're successful at doing that. Now, that does not preclude, right, those folk who are already well-positioned, prerequisited, and trained so that they're able to take advantage of the resources that are here. But what's true is that there's some students who we gladly accept and take who are CSU Dominguez Hills eligible, but in some cases haven't been prepared to manage the rigors of a university education. But our job is not to abandon them or kick them to the curb. Our job is to embrace them, to support them, and in that space. And when you look at these international centers around the world, there are so many places that are so competitive, and only the certain few get to do it because they end up replicating what a lot of our institutional partners do.
Yeah.
They say, aren't I wonderful because I only admit the top 3 and 4 and 5 and 6% with their noses in the air. To me, I've been a scholar all my life. I can take a 4.0 student and keep him or her 4.0. That's easy.
Yeah.
What I want at Dominguez Hills, I want the 2.5 student who could be a 3.0.
Yeah.
I want the 3.0 student who could be a 3.5. I want the 3.5 student who could be a 3.9 or 4.0, going to grad school and taking my job as president, because we are putting our arms around those students, helping them understand they belong, providing them with the intellectual rigor and resource, the academic support, the advising, the financial aid support, and the other co-curricular learning opportunities and ambiance that are helping improve the whole educational experience that they have while they're on this campus. And that's what we're seeing in our success numbers now.
The other thing that over the years when we travel that I learned a great deal from you is that you talk about students with passion. You are one of the most people who are sort of want students to be successful. In one of those nights where we sat down and talked about getting advice from you, you talked about your background and a term that you use that you have a hybrid model in leadership. In other words, you came from in administration, people who go to administration, you go through student affairs and they become presidents, or you have academic and these are professors. You have both. You have a professor, you are a professor, but you also work in student affairs. That combination, we had it today several times, the law for students, to create an environment conducive for them to be successful. Can we shift a little bit to faculty? And I know you are a strong advocate of faculty, you speak passionately about it. You're maybe the only president that talks that when we met the first time, you were talking about learning outcomes. That's an academic jargon that you don't find administrators talking about it. But that shows deeply how much you know about academics, what kind of programs need, what kind of support that faculty need to be successful.
Well, a lot of people get confused because they think that presidents are just administrative eggheads. And some are. We come out of the administrative side of the house. Some come out of the faculty side of the house. It doesn't make either of them by themselves successful. There's some academics who are very intellectually capable and research capable, but don't relate to students. There's some folk who come out of the student side, but don't understand administration or how to work with the faculty or even have credibility among the faculty. There's some who come out of the more administrative, finance, budgeting, university advancement side who know the financials of an institution, but don't necessarily connect with students or connect with the faculty. What you're talking about in my background is that I'm a hybrid.
Yeah.
So I started my career as an Ivy League professor, as I mentioned. I then shifted to administration, but I've taught every year, still publish, have published as much, if not more, than my whole faculty. And I doubt there are very few people who have outpublished me. But what it does is it isn't an accolade to say, aren't I wonderful? It really gives me an understanding about what does it take to be able to succeed in the realm of a faculty member as you're moving through that tenure track line, or even being an adjunct, a professor who teaches for us part-time. So I understand what it's like. I understand the importance of that. And faculty, in some respects, become the lifeblood of an institution because of the intellectual resources that they represent and the commitment and dedication that they have to be able to get the job done. Our student affairs colleagues are essential because academic affairs and student affairs create what I call a profoundly reciprocal relationship to one another. So that success in one domain is contingent upon success in the other. So you've got to marry those two. And having credibility on both sides of the house has allowed us to be able to do that, and has allowed those entities to work together, which strengthens the educational experience that students will have on this particular campus. So that has been a particular asset for me in being able to do that. But the passion I have for students, the passion I have for staff, the passion I have for faculty is understanding, like any good leader does, that a leader really, Hamoud, is only as good as the work produced by the people who work with and for them. You know, I'm a small part of that. My job is to provide strategic vision for this campus, to lead this campus, not just manage the campus. My job is to surround myself with great people, cultivate the ones that are here, recruit the ones that aren't, invite the others who can't quite get with the vision to think about other opportunities, but consolidate all of that into a workable team that is all focused on the same mission, which is student success, supporting these faculty, supporting these staff, making these alumni proud, and trying to support our both internal and external stakeholders who have been part of that. And that's been part of the success, I think, that we've had at Dominguez Hills in my tenure, at being able to align all of those resources into one place so that 1 and 1 equals 3 as we move forward to elevate your Cal State University Dominguez Hills.
That's really amazing. I'm tempted to close it there, but I want to give you the last word. Any advice, any guidance you'd like to share with our audience?
I would certainly say that if you're thinking about an academic institution who is committed to your growth and development, at Cal State University Dominguez Hills, I believe, and we believe, that each of you is a seed of divinely inspired possibility, and that when nurtured in its proper context, you can and will grow into the fullest expression of all you are supposed to become. This campus, your Cal State University Dominguez Hills, is the soil into which your seed of divinely inspired possibility is placed. And when you come here, from whatever corner of the globe you come from, we will put you in this nurturing soil. We will water it with the drops of intellectual nourishment. We will enrich it with the drops of socialization and values orientation that are an important part of your educational experience. We will till the soil to take the weeds of social distraction out of your life. We're going to give you just enough sunlight of affirmation and make you feel good about being here and let you know that you belong. And then we're going to give you just enough shade of critique so that when you get out of line or off track, we'll grab you by the collar and say, straighten up, because we need you focused on the mission critical. And then we just stand back and watch you grow into the fullest expression of all you're supposed to become. At your California State University Dominguez Hills, this is the Toro Nation. And our Toros are what I call T-squared. We are transforming lives that ultimately will transform America and the world. And we're just inviting you to come and take advantage of the resources we have to offer. With that, it's been my pleasure to be with you. I thank you for having me.
It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure, President Parham. I'm sure we'll see you again, whether you're here or somewhere else. Audience, it's been a pleasure. sharing with you this podcast. Until next time, have a good week, and bye-bye.